Afternoon everybody, Rich here, back again for another video for the Diecast F1 review. Here today is the Toleman TG184 from the 1984 Formula 1 World Championship. A car made famous by Ayrton Senna in his debut season. But in the car this time, for this model, it is Johnny Cecotto, one of Senna's teammates from that year. Johnny Cecotto is, I think, more famous for his motorcycle racing than his car racing, but he tried to be John Surtees, but I don't think he managed to do it. And also took part in touring cars as well, sports cars and various other sports as well. He wasn't particularly well suited to Formula 1, and well, really, it kind of showed really. I think also Stefan Johansson drove this car as well in 1984, but I can't really. I have to do more research on that one. But anyway, the car made famous by Senna. The car debuted, I think, at around 3 or 4 of the 84 season. After I think 1 point was scored already by the old car, the TG183, which is a very different car compared to this one. Very different looking, a much narrower chassis and very small side pods. This car a bit bulkier, but I think it's a bit more better looking anyway. So the 84 season was pretty much the season dominated by McLaren with Prost and Lauda, but at the beginning of the year, a little Brazilian named Senna came along and took the world by storm. A famous second place at the Monaco Grand Prix, which really should have been a win, but of course the organisers stopped the race early. And I think also, was it two more podiums or was it one? I know he finished third in Portugal, but I'm not sure if he had any more podiums after that. I think 13 points scored by Senna, but I'm not sure. Maybe there were more podiums, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that at least 2 anyway. In Johnny Cecotto in the other car, I think may have scored 1 point. I'm not sure. I have to do my research before I really ought to do more research before I do these videos. It really doesn't help. But anyway, the car powered by a Brian Hart engine. I think it was a V6, and it wasn't particularly powerful. Was it a V6 or a straight 4? I think it's a straight 4 actually. Yeah, but the car was pretty much down on power throughout 84, and the chassis brand new but relatively undeveloped. I think it's just lack of budget really. Of course it would be another 2 years before Benetton come on board. Well, Benetton will come on board in 85 but won't to own the team until 86. So there's another year or 2 before Benetton got hold properly and took the team to higher and better places. Yeah, but the 184 was not a bad car, and it's pretty much shown in this video, in this model as well. There were several versions of the car throughout, different colour schemes anyway throughout the season. This is sort of the bog standard livery. I know later in the season they went for a red striped livery, and also a same sort of livery with this one, but with candy logos and a bit more blue and a bit more red on throughout the season. The car was also used throughout 1985 as well. Basically, it's pronounced the TG185 for 1985, but I think that's nothing more. Basically, an updated engine and a bit more refinement to the rear bodywork. But they still called it the new car anyway. Not much else I can say about the car apart from, of course, it's Senna's debut car. I'm more interested in the model anyway. Here's the basic. I want to say the basic the Toleman model. Of course, it's the Johnny Cecotto version. The Senna collection models are of the other 2 versions, the one with the candy on the side and also the red stripes. There have been criticism of the red striped version. I think the decals or the decals were peeling off quite easily on the red stripes, and it didn't go down too well with collectors. The other version I can't really say much about, but I don't really have that. They both come in the Senna collection, which come in the Ayrton Senna boxes, the bright yellow helmet livery. Well, is it bright? The helmet livery, and also the Brazilian flag. Yeah, they come in the much smaller boxes. This one comes in. I'll just move it to one side. The usual, the Minichamps basic box. Has the TG184 on the side, the Johnny Cecotto from the French Grand Prix. That's good to know. I didn't look at that before I started. But anyway, let's bring the car back in. And it's quite a heavy car as well, considering it's one of the early 80s cars. There's quite a lot of weight to it. Well, I say it's not an 80s model. The model was probably made about 10 years ago, but the model itself is pretty heavy for a replica of an 80s car. The tyres are nice and fat. This is how Formula 1 tyres should be. Nice fat slicks, very chunky tyres. The suspension should be 2 meters wide. But anyway, enough about what I want. Let's just look at the model. Got Johnny Cecotto in the cockpit there. I keep wiggling around. The steering is very nicely replicated on this. It's not cheap and nasty. It's not going to fall off. The only issue I have is the front wing is a bit flimsy. So I'm not going to put too much pressure on that. I'll just get my finger under the nose there, and I can lift it about now. Now, of course, being an early 80s turbo car, we have the exposed engine at the rear. We have this ridiculous wing in the way. The wing itself is very flimsy and is very thin plastic, but we'll try not to bend too much of that. I'll just get a look on the Hart engine there. I do apologise for the light as well. It's not natural light because, of course, it being October, it's pissing with rain outside, and the light is, well, no light at all. So we'll just have a quick look around this. I can't get a very good angle on this because of that wing in the way. But we've got all the cables and wires on top of the engine there. Exhaust manifold, well, the exhaust anyway. The turbo. I'll try and get a look through the rear here as well. So we've got all the suspension gubbins, gearbox, a lot of structure added to the rear wing. The rear wing is actually quite solid, even though it's thin plastic. These bars down here do make it quite solid. So the exhaust there, the rear rain light on the rear. And so nice detailing on the engine there. Let me just move the car back around there. And we'll zoom back out again. So this is one of my more favourite models of the era. It's very, very, very nicely made. Sorry, I'm running out of breath here. And very well built as well. Like I said, the front wing is a bit of an issue, and I think I just cracked it there. And the wing mirrors are a bit flimsy as well, so I will not try to put too much pressure on them. Steering, like I said, is fine. It's a bit loose, but it's not going to just fall apart. Driver figure is very nicely moulded as well. Got the seat belts on there as well. So the driver's helmet, seat belts, all things like that. So the helmet, Cecotto on the airbox there. And a very nice model it is as well. If I just turn it around and then flip it up and have a look at the bottom, of course a flat bottom car. If I can get under the nose and tilt the thing over. There we go. There we go, we've got the Toleman TG184 on the bottom there. The Minichamps Paul model art there, of course the made in China there. All flat from the nose all the way to the rear of the car, up to the diffuser. No wooden plank or tunnels on this car. Very basic aerodynamics. And I have to say, a very nice looking car as well. It's just a shame they didn't release an 85 version of this model as well. Because with the Benetton colour schemes, does make for some interesting liveries, and I think this car will look pretty good. Like I said, there's 3 versions of this car. Because you've got the red striped version and also the Senna version of a bit more blue, and also the candy on the side. I'm not sure if there's any more versions. I know that Minichamps are a bit anal with their Senna collection. They keep releasing different versions of different things. I think the collection is a bit more widely spread in the 143 category. Of course, this is 118, so there's not quite as big a market. Price wise for this car as well, I picked this car up really cheap because CK models about 2 years ago were knocking these out at £35, so I picked up 2 at the time. And the Senna collection, of course, is just you put a Senna collection model on eBay, you're going to get probably not much. Well, you're probably going to get quite a lot actually, about £100 more. The Cecotto version, I think, is just as valuable really. You don't see them pop up very often. The Tolmans are sort of the more rarer cars you see on eBay. In recent years anyway, they don't pop up very often. If they do, they're usually ridiculous buy it now prices by traders, so you're not really going to get value for money there. My opinion of the price range of this car, if you can get this thing for under £50, you're doing quite well. Of course, I picked these up for £35 because a deal going on at the time, so I didn't do too badly there. Excuse me. We'll just do another quick look around the car. I've got the logos on the side there. Got the cecotto side on the side there. The sponsor still with McLaren at the moment. Of course, in 2015, it's on the I think it's on the rear wing, is it, or is it on the side pod? I don't know. It's on the car somewhere. There was a car on Michelin tyres as well. A single Michelin brand on the side there. Of course, it does roll quite well, except for this front left tyre, which is a bit sticky. But apart from that, the car does roll quite nicely. It doesn't scrape the bottom. The suspension is really stiffly set, so The wheels are not going to move around too much. It is quite a solid model. We'll look at it from all angles. We've got that angle there, got that angle there. Haven't done a quick look in the cockpit yet, so I'll have a quick zoom in there. And we get a good angle without knocking the car with the tripod. So we've got, zoom out again, and zoom in again. So we've got the steering wheel there, of course, which turns a little bit with the steering wheel. Got a few painted on dials. I think it's moulded dials actually. I can't really tell with this angle. And the dials are, bloody hell. Focus please, there we go. So we've got buttons on the, and rev limiter on the top of the dashboard, and dials on there as well. Actually, there's quite a bit of detail in there. Hats off to Minichamps for that one, so they've done alright with this one. And like I said, strength wise, it's not too bad. It's pretty solid, but this mid wing here, ridiculous it may look, it is pretty fragile. So it's not going to be much good on an aerodynamic. If you're going at 700 miles, or 700 miles, if you're going about 200 miles an hour with this thing on, it ain't going to last long. So it is a bit ridiculously flexible. So the rear wing is quite well held on, because you've got support structured in there. The wing mirror is also the bit of concern. Front wing is not too bad, but it is a bit, doesn't have much strength in the middle there. It's likely to break off. Yeah, overall, I would recommend getting this model. It does look a bit weird in a modern collection because it's such a weird looking car in comparison to today's. Today is all low, sleek, aerodynamically advanced machines. This thing is sort of a bus in comparison. But I really do like this model. It is, I wish Minichamps or anybody, any manufacturer who's got rights to these sort of things, I really wish they would make more 80s models. Because apart from McLaren's, Lotuses, and I think S.p.A are now doing the Williams as well, there ain't much out there. I think there's one Benetton, and I think Brabhams are just popping up on the market as well. But apart from that, there isn't a huge amount of models. The 90s seem to be the golden age. Well, the 90s going into the early 2000s seems to be the golden age of the die-cast model for Formula 1. But the 80s, there isn't a huge amount going. Even the 70s, there seems to be more 70s models now going around, but 80s seems a bit obscure. I really would like some Ligiers or Tyrrells or something like that from the 80s, because they're really interesting looking cars. Even Minardis and things like that. Have something from a bit more variety. Dalaras or something like that. Especially from 89, 88, cars beginning to look a bit different, or a bit more modern, with rule changes and things. But anyway, there's no point complaining about it. I'm sure someone would do them one day, but never mind. Here's a good angle actually for the engine. If we just look at it from this angle, you can get a good look at the detailing there. So you can see all the cables, spark plugs and things like that. There's no cover over this engine at all, so if it did piss with rain, it was going to get a bit messy in there. But see, I've got some nice detailing in there. And once again, I do apologise for the unnatural light, but hey ho. Like I say, the car should be white, but under this light it's a bit yellow, but I do apologise. Anyway, if you can pick this car up for a ridiculously cheap price, you're doing very well, especially if it's a Senna model as well. They don't come on the market very often, and when they do, they tend to sell for ridiculous prices. So, lo and behold, if you can get hold of one, you're doing very well. And I really do recommend getting hold of this car. Like I said, it's something different, and it's very nice as well. But that's my review, and like I said, there are 3 versions that I know of. There's possibly a 4th, but if you want more variety, then go for the 143 market. Anyway, I just turn the car that way to get a good camera shot. There we go. Anyway, that's me, Rich, signing off, logging off, disappearing, and I shall return with another review. So, bye for now.